Hey everybody, welcome to the hashtag Exchange SA Chat. It is June 2016 and we're here with Ben Fung and we're talking about APTA membership. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing great, recovering from APTA Next. Nashville was amazing. I've never been to the South, but I gotta say, the charm exists. I am convinced. The Southern Californian is convinced of the Southern charm.
Yes, it was such an awesome time. Very important question here. Have you unpacked?
No. Actually, right behind me is the same black backpack that I had all throughout Next, and it is still full.
Yeah, I can definitely relate here. So we've got an awesome night out already on its way. There are several questions that have been tweeted to us already on Twitter and through Facebook and through emails. So we're going to jump right in. Go ahead, Ben, and tell us about you. Tell us where this all started.
Tell us where this all started. Well, I guess I'll say that I started behind the curve. I've always been an APTA member. I was rolled into my my student membership, student tuition rather, but I never really leveraged that membership until CSM came to San Diego in 2013. And I want to say Durham that basically pulled me by my underpants and said, "This is in your backyard and you are coming." And that's kind of when I finally realized and truly experienced beyond the whole, well, it's the only advocating body for physical therapists. You hear that all the time. And I finally experienced the true value of that deeper community set. Now, as for me as a PT in 09 from Azusa Pacific University, and like most people, I thought to myself, ortho. I'm going to go into ortho. 5 years out, I'm going to open up my own clinic because everybody needs 5 years of experience before you open up your own business. And then I hear that all the time. And then, so then I looked for jobs in outpatient, couldn't find it in San Diego, where I was from, didn't want to go anywhere, and found myself in acute care. I was very happy because all the professors always tell you, and I've heard this from basically every program, it's the best place for you to learn your medicine. So I'm like, all right, let's do this. So I was in acute care for 3 years or so, got wrapped up in a lot of PR, marketing, news, cast type stuff, which was really outside the usual wheelhouse of being an acute care PT, but I lit. Then took a promotion into a rehab director position for SNF and outpatient, and then finally did home health. And so I've done all of it, all the while completing an MBA, and then finally starting up APTA Media with the founders, Dr. Gene Shirakuba and all those guys at Therapy Insiders.
Wow. So you have been through it all. That's amazing. Well, we're really excited to have you here on the Exchange Chat talking about membership. You posed a question, you and Gene of Doc Media posed a question on the DPT student Facebook group talking about APTA membership. And as soon as the APTA Student Assembly Board of Directors, as soon as we all saw that, we realized we've got to do something about this. So in comes the Exchange SA Chat where we're talking about APTA membership. So I'm Alexis Morgan and I'm your Director of Communications for the Student Assembly. And I'm so excited all of you are here tonight live. And for those of you who are going to be watching later, I thank you as well. As you're tweeting, don't forget to use the hashtag ExchangeSA and tweet your favorite quotes. So with that, let's go ahead and jump into questions because we've got a lot of them. Brian Duke asks, Ben, in your opinion, what is the single most impactful benefit of APTA membership for a DPT student, PTA student, or fresh PT?
Great question to start off with, right? Don't swing low. So the greatest, and I mean the number one, when I look back into what I missed out on, right? I missed out on all that student involvement in advocacy in school. I missed out on essentially my first 2.5, 3 years of practice and being integrated into that APTA community. The single greatest benefit to any student, PT student, PTA student, is the APTA community involved with it, the more it becomes a career accelerator for you. And what I mean by career accelerator, I mean, you hear that it takes 3 years to get promoted, or 5 years to make management, or 10 years to do this, or 20 years to do that. It doesn't. When you have the right people in play in both your social circles and your professional networking connections, that rule goes down the drain. People that want you successful because they've already tried it the hard way. They've tried it the 3, 5, 10, 20-year plan, and they don't want it for you. And the PT community, come on, we're the biggest givers there are. All we do is give. We would probably do stuff that what we do for free if we didn't have to pay our bills. That's just kind of part of our community. So that's the greatest benefit. Being a member early on, being an engaged member early on is a success accelerator.
Absolutely. So James Buenaventura asks, I want to know why you first chose to renew your APTA membership and still continue to do so to this day.
So I renewed it just because, like many people out there, I was a disengaged member. It was my first year out, and I was like, well, it's the right thing to do. I want somebody else. I'm not doing it. I'm not advocating for the profession. I'm not, quote, protecting my scope of practice. So I wanted whoever I could trust out there, those, that entity of no names out there, to do the protecting for me. From today, I renew, and I will continue to renew because I have met the people that have done it. I have seen their work firsthand, and I have seen their work behind the scenes, and I know what goes into that. And on protecting your scope of practice, like one thing I was chatting with a group of students. Look, if this is the dutiful thing to do, if you're doing it because somebody's advocating for you, that's great. But that's not where it ends. That's not the goal, right? Protecting is given in your profession. That is what makes us grow. That's what takes us away from where we were. We remember our roots, but that's great. But it brings us forth and blossoms up into where we can and should be at the top of our license.
Wow, this is great. I know that everybody is quoting tweets all along the way. This is just awesome. Thank you, Ben, for being here. Yeah. Make sure as you're live tweeting, use the hashtag #ExchangeSA. Hashtag, yeah, there we go.
You were supposed to do it. You promised.
Yeah, hashtag. Now every time we do it, we'll continue. Okay, Tim Rethorn, who is also at Next, he asks, what are the top tips to maintain the fire, which was definitely an emoji in there, outside of conferences?
So you guys know me. I'm a social media guy. And I feel that social media has changed the game. And while some people might say, well, it's replaced, certain aspects of the association, I disagree. I feel that it has bolstered it. I feel it's a turbo boost. If you want to keep the fire, keep on chats like this, engage like this. I have never seen so much engagement post-conference as I've seen just the last couple of days after Next. Even with CSM, stuff, started to trend downward a little bit, but I'm still seeing the hashtag, APTA Next going on. If you want to keep the fire, lowest hanging fruit, continue to spin ideas. Then join groups. Find yourself, if you're a student, I'm assuming it's a student that asked the question, right, is find yourself a mentor now. There's so many PTs on social media that want to mentor you. They want to. Those are two easy ways.
That's really great. And for those of you who are watching who may not be on Twitter yet, you'll probably want to get on here in the midst of all of this, or definitely afterwards, because the great conversations are happening right now on Twitter. So with that being said, Carly Risman asks, I see value in membership and try to model it, but know my classmates struggle at renewal time. How can I help my peers?
So renewal time is kind of interesting because you take a look at it and you go, okay, I can do 4 payments. I can just throw down a couple hundred right now. And I see it this way. I don't ever see membership as an added cost, right? It's just, that's a good way to sell yourself out of something. When you're talking to your classmates and they're going, man, like I could use $400 for next month's, rent, instead of doing it now. And that's true. True. I could do that too. But what you can't use those $400 right now, or the resources that our advocating bodies and our leaders need now to make rent not even an issue 2, 3, 5, 10 years down the line. You're not going to get that kind of return on investment anywhere else. If you just think about the things that have just happened, Wisconsin having imaging rights, Louisiana getting direct access. I mean, this is all in a very tiny, tiny window, and things are only accelerating. If you want that momentum to be there for you when you hit that magical point in your, say in 3 years when you graduate, or 2 years, or 1 year when you graduate, if you want those things there for you then, you've got to invest now.
Oh, that's so good. So Josh, Carno, oh man, here we go with the last names. Carno, Josh K, SPT, asks, do you recommend first-year students to join sections and SIGs to guide their development and career path, or is that too early?
Now, I guess there's a balance, right? There's a funny balance when it comes to being a student, because you want to get in there, right? You have this drive of, let me get in there right now. But at the same time, you gotta pass your courses. My advice is this: if you're doing okay, you're doing well, you have a solid standing in school, take a look at your regional, your local opportunities, and then expand out. Because typically, the further you get away from home, the more responsibilities that is, and the more that may tax your grades. And we want you to pass, right? We want you to pass, because if you don't pass, you can't take the boards and you can't get that license, and you can't join that rank. So if you have that handled, definitely think about doing stuff at the local level. And it doesn't necessarily have to be official. You don't need a title to be a leader. You need to be in the front, walking, to be a leader.
Oh man, I know that's going to go on Twitter like crazy. That was beautiful. Gives me chills. Kelly Isaacs asks, as APTA members, what simple actions can we take to elevate our profession?
Ooh, I love the word elevate.
Yes, that's a good one.
Elevation is such a cool word, because it's a verb, and it's so, there's so much imagery. You just see this, podium rising. You see PT right here kind of going higher, higher, higher. What can we do? I would say the biggest thing that we can do is three-pronged. Number one, we need to boost our image. And that's across all dimensions. It can be as simple as how you dress. It can be as simple as how willing you are to conversate about your profession. Because I know, PTs, we're not super, super, super outgoing. We're not salesmen per se, even though we're good at it. We don't know we are, but we are good at it. But we need to be willing to put that out there, to go beyond that 9-to-5 mindset and live our profession every single day, everywhere we go. And I know I do this. When I see somebody stumble in line when I'm checking out, I'm reaching out under there trying to grab them. I feel like put a safety belt around them. You get a gate belt. Those instincts, communicate it, verbalize it. So that's just in person. Expand that. Get your digital footprint out there. Whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, whatever, it doesn't really matter what you are, but you need to be out there and you need to be active. And I would say that the last big thing to do to elevate the profession, and I'm not paid to say this, it might sound like it, but I'm not paid to say this. You get people on membership. Really, get people on membership. When only 3 out of every 10 of your graduated colleagues are members, and we're dealing with other forces that aren't exactly friendly to us, and they have 10, 20 times the resources, the best thing you can do is boost your positive image and then boost the force behind that positive image from a membership standpoint. And then not just that, be active in your membership. Be active.
Wonderful. Yeah, everyone, I promise we didn't pay him to do that. Didn't pay him to say that one. Okay, Ryan Duncan asks, imagine a world with 100% voluntary APTA membership. What does the PT landscape look like?
All right, story time, huh? Well, let's put it this way. I think if you went to a program like I did, and we're not faulting these programs, right? They're trying to teach us the importance of professional associative membership, because it really is the only legislative body that we, advocating body that we have. And our license dictates what we do. And if our license doesn't spell out the same language as doctor of physical therapy, we don't get that doctor. We don't get any of that. So they're trying to instill that into us. And I know that, especially for the millennial generations, we don't like to be made to do anything. Now, that said, a 100% voluntary membership, what do I see that as? I see that as a very engaged group of people. Instead of perhaps what's more common in all associations, my understanding is, the whole 80-20 rule where 20% of the people do 80% of the work. I see more of an 80-100 rule where you may not have as many members at first, but every single member, 80% of your people are doing 100% of the work because that's what they're there for. They want to do that. And so what I see, if I see 100% volunteer-based APTA membership, I see that a membership community that just is going to blow it up on so many levels, at the local level, at the state level, at the national level. And you think there's a crazy Twitter storm now. I'm not looking at it because I'm not allowed to. Alexis told me to put this down. All right. But this thing would be just on fire. And that would be a daily conversation. All right. And I mean, think about it. Think about just what kind of positive publicity and brand image that it would do for physical therapy and all the just all of us professionals if PT was a constantly trending thing on Twitter. Just think about that for a sec.
Wow. So going along those same lines, Zach Morgan asks, what are your thoughts on mandatory membership as a part of licensure?
Well, according to some of the data that we got from the why are you not an APTA member conversation, mandatory membership was basically the biggest no-no that was shared. Now, there are some professionals that do that, and they have very, very high memberships, and they even have highly engaged memberships. But historically, right, we have been a community of givers. We've been a community of volunteers. We've been a community of people that say, I want to do more. And even if I have nothing left, I'm still going to do more because the people that I serve, they are my motivation. I think that is core to our spirit as physical therapists and physical therapy assistants, that what we do has nothing to do with the fact that we are forced to. We are doing it because we are convicted to.
That's so good. So Catherine Lutz asks, how to help others who are not interested in making those connections or leadership opportunities to see the benefits? How do we make them see those benefits?
Right. How do you get, kids like I was, and when in school I was going, well, I got to study because I'm going to fail. Because I'm going to take the range of motion wrong and they're going to strangle me with, hot packs and parabands. And how do you get that mindset off? Well, I'll say this, give them a taste. All right. Take them out to whatever it is. You can, it could be a local networking thing. Buy them a beer, buy them dinner, whatever. The engagement is not a logical part of the human experience. Engagement is an emotional, experiential, even existential part of the human experience. So if you want to get them engaged, don't talk them into it. Just buy them a beer, buy them a drink, buy them dinner. I don't care what it is, but get them there. Even get them on stuff like this. Get them on the Next Exchange essay and show them the Twitter feed and show them just how crazy, just one little tweet, how much that can change, the number of impressions that generates, and the kind of fire that sparks. That is how you get them there.
That's so good. I'm telling you, do y'all see these chills here? Oh, goodness. Okay. Yemesi Elabute asks, how would you recommend making the most of your PTA membership while still in school?
Go to every conference you can go to. And when you go to those conferences, do everything you can to meet the leaders in the front because they're accessible. and you can ask anybody who went to the next conference, our leaders, they're not, they're not leaders like, oh, I see you down there, my minions, follow me. It's not like that. These people, like I met Justin Moore, I met Matt Hyland, I met Sharon Dunn, and each of these folks, they could just as easily be your coworkers in clinic. They pour out their souls so that we have clinics to go to and the clinics of tomorrow to build today. So I would say you want to maximize that as a student. Go to these things and add as much fuel and as much passion, as much energy, as much conviction as you can now. Because once you graduate, there's going to be other, real life forces at work, and they'll pull you back a little bit. That's okay. But if you fuel up now, you'll have fuel later so you don't burn out. And that's a huge thing, is we don't want you to burn out. So get charged up now.
Love it. For everybody on Twitter, don't forget to ask your questions using the hashtag ExchangeSA and keep those questions coming. These are great. So Ron Peacock asks, how can students better manage their time in order to not just be APTA members, but be active members?
All right, sorry to cough there. All right, so kind of building off, I think, of 2 questions ago. As a student, we have to be responsible for our student responsibilities. Become an active member is as simple as asking a question. You can ask any one of the student assembly folks. I've met them all. They're amazing. They're just like you. They're just like me. Ask them, how can I do more? What can I do to add? What can I do to give? And when you give, you will receive more than you can possibly imagine. And they'll help you out because they're students too. They know those boundaries. They have families. They have student loans just like you. They have classes just like you. They're getting graded. They don't get, a huge break, automatic A's for whatever. They still have to pay those dues. Same thing. Alexis is like, I wish I got automatic A's in anatomy.
That would be so nice.
Yeah. It's like everybody would be engaged then. No. They still have to do stuff just like you. So ask them, right? And there's so many, I would say there are more roles of opportunity than there are people to fill it. So just raise your hand. They're not asking you to, hold up a building. They're just asking you to do a little bit, whatever your time, whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you can balance out. Because they'll say the same thing I'm saying. Don't sacrifice your school's journey just to be a little bit engaged. They'll help you maintain that balance.
For sure. And I think being around other people, other leaders, asking them what they do to help, and also learning by mistakes. That always helps.
Learning by mistakes is a thing.
Yes. It's alive and well. Okay. Paige Earhart also asked a question earlier, but you had already answered it. Just wanted to give Paige a shout out as well. So next we've got Josh Elam asking, what's your best 30-second talk to pique the interest of a new first-year student? Ready, go.
All right. I'm going to burn a couple seconds because I just don't need 30. All right. Here's the thing. The APTA is our only professional advocating body. And that doesn't matter, per se. They're the only ones that can protect our scope of practice. And that doesn't matter, per se. What matters is this. You are going to be doctor of physical therapy. You're going to be Dr. So-and-so. And if you want to hold that in all of its esteem, and you want a profession that grows beyond where it is from day to day, that is what the APTA will do for you.
Absolutely. So the FPTA SIG, the Florida PT Association SIG, and Max Oliver both asks, any ideas on innovative ways that student SIGs in a state with the 30% membership can increase engagement and unleash the student powerhouse?
I would say, and forgive me, Florida, if you're already doing this or whatnot. I'm speaking off the top of my head, but I know that when I was a student and I was disengaged, the only thing that would engage me is an experience. So whatever that might be, I went to my first student conclave gosh, closer to a decade out of school than I was a student. And I was in San Diego, California, and I crashed that thing, and it was wonderful. It was amazing. And it doesn't have to be in that scale, but if you can create an experience for students to come by, and you're not going to capture all of them, that's okay. The idea is you want to spread a spark. Well, you want that spark to become a fire. You want that fire to become a storm of energy. Create an experience for them where they can meet and greet and network and experience what it really feels like to be on that leading edge where things are just sparking all the time and you just can't contain that raw energy. If you can give that to them, I promise you they will be engaged.
Oh, that's so good. Start it with a spark and see where it goes. So FPTA student SIG also asks, what do you think the APTA does well in terms of pleasing its active members?
Well, I think what it does well is what you see at these conferences and what you see in some of the, quote, hidden resources. And there's definitely opportunities all over the place, because that's what life is all about, and that's what PTs do, is we capitalize on opportunities when everybody says it can't be done. That is what we do. And we saw that at Next. We saw our keynote speaker who was told, you will never walk again. And he came in with a single crutch, and apparently his mom forced him. So that I've lost myself in that story because that was just such an inspiring moment. I kind of need the repeat of the question just because that image.
So, and I was trying to find my place on there as well. No worries. So what do you think the APTA does well?
That's right.
Pleasing the active members.
And pleasing active members, it's just stuff like that. I mean, look at me. I'm pleased. I'm so pleased that I forgot the question because that was such an amazing moment.
So into your story that I forgot it too.
It was such an amazing moment. And just to remind yourself, that's the world that you're a part of. That's the profession. That's the community. That's the culture you're a part of. Is we inspire and empower others to find strength that they didn't think ever existed, to walk again, to live again, to do things that they love again, or to do more of it. What the APTA also, I feel, does excellently is they create the opportunity to build deeper communities. Because every community has layers, right? Not necessarily cliques, but just layers. And I feel the APTA does a very good job of creating layers of communities for people that have layers of opportunities and time in their lives to get either deeper or more shallow or waver. And like I had my kid in 2013 and I had to pull back a little bit, and that's okay. And that's what's nice about it, is that there are layers of commitment, so you don't feel like you have to have 3 jobs or 5 jobs just by being part of the APTA.
That's wonderful. Anna Muscat asks, what has been the most valuable resource that you have found through the APTA?
The most valuable resource I personally have found are actually these conferences. There are so many more things, whether it's hidden in the website corners that you just have to find time for because there's that much to be found through, or it's going through the local chapters or whatnot. But my biggest resource is actually that congregation in these large conferences at CSM, at Student Conclaves, at Next, and PPS and NSC are coming around the corner in October. These things to me personally are what I find to be the most energetic resources, because when I come to these things, I am charged up, and it's not just a mountain high experience. Again, I see it as a fuel tank. It fuels me up so I can keep going and grind through the stuff that I feel like I couldn't grind through before. That to me is the resource and the value proposition for me.
That is so wonderful. And thank you for the shout out for National Student Conclave in Miami in October. It's going to be awesome. If you missed the hype at Next, or if you just want to relive it again, NSC this fall is going to be awesome. So registration will be open midsummer, and make sure you register early because it's going to be so much fun. Luke Ford asks, I love being an APTA member. I got to ask, what is something you would change about APTA membership?
Well, I would say the one thing that I would change about the APTA membership would be the in-your-face of how much I could actually do as a member. I didn't know. I just didn't. And then they probably sent me all sorts of stuff. I probably received, hundreds of emails and a dozen more flyers after that, and I just didn't pay attention because to me it wasn't in my face enough. To me it didn't hook me in that emotional way, in that engaged way. And I think that's probably something that any organization will say that they could do better, is that they could be more into the heart of their audience. And I mean, I strive to do that every day. I strive every day to be in more of the heart of my audience. And I think it's a continual opportunity for any organization. And, if we can find that secret sauce, I think we'll have something very special.
Absolutely. And we do get that emotional experience at those conferences. We just need to continue that and carry it on elsewhere. So Jeff Moore asks, Ben, APTA membership is very low nationwide. What do you think explains their inability to motivate a greater percentage of PTs?
I think that's a very deep and layered question. And I'll play the politician for just a moment to say that I think that there are a couple of factors that lead to it. I think one, somebody may not see the value, whether it's based on cost or based on benefits. I think the other part of it is it's easy to churn out because you're a passive member for a while, you haven't actually engaged, and then it's easy to think to yourself, well, I haven't really done anything with that for a while. That's what I was. I was a passive member for a while until somebody hooked me along and said, you got to check this out. And so then putting my hat back on, my personal hat, I think the reasons for disengagement are typically the same reasons for any kind of disengagement. And I'll kind of use a story to communicate that. Right now, I'm back in Orange County, California, and not too far away is an organization that has approximately, if I remember correctly, about 1 million members, paying about $1,000 per person to have access to a location where they, on average, spend $50 to $80 per day just to show up. And that place is Disneyland. And why are people willing to spend that much money? It's because there's a very clear experiential and communicated value in attending Disneyland. And I think that as we learn the common language, I think right now is the time to do it. Right before social media, before even email marketing, before we were connected digitally, we could only do through snail mail. And it's hard to communicate a voice through snail mail. And I think that has been kind of a long tail kind of echo in the APTA garnering more members. And now that there is that much more of a physical therapy audience, both professionally and based on consumers on social medias, I think we're going to be able to see that change so long as we leverage the right tools and use the right voices to engage. I think we're at a turning point, and if we can, and I think we can, and if everybody watching this today, or watching on replay, can just grab one person to join that conversation, that will change the game. That's the thing, is we need to grab people into that same conversation. I bet you anybody that goes to Disneyland, when they come back, what's the first question? How was Disneyland? And then you go off on how you saw Mickey or got all wet by some God forbidden roller coaster that you got dragged on. That is what you need to share.
That's great. I love that analogy. Kyle Thibodeau asks, as a student, what is the best way to contribute to the profession using the available resources from an APTA membership?
Well, honestly, the best way to contribute as a student, if I were to go back, is I would have joined stuff, everything that I could within that realism of still fulfilling responsibilities, whether it's being part of a body like the student assembly, or it's just getting more students on board to chats like this. And I honestly think, Alexis, you and the student assembly probably have way more answers about that on how students can engage.
Yeah, I think this is always the best way to first get involved because it's accessible to everyone. And then from there, you start making those relationships, and then you go to those conferences, and then you enhance those relationships, and then it just grows. So that, I think, is the best way to contribute, is to get inspired. And then
get fired up.
Yeah. And then from there, you
Start off.
use your strengths for our profession. There's no one answer for everyone. It's all different depending on who you are and what your strengths are. So, Riaz Mananji, sorry, Riaz, I mispronounced your last name again. How can an APTA membership help my educational or academic career, whether in school or out of school?
How can it help your academic career? Well, honestly, I think it's motivation. Like PT isn't rocket science. Like my undergraduate work was in bioengineering. That's rocket science. That's the kind of stuff where you stare at physics sheets for weeks and you may never get the right answer. But physical therapy isn't rocket science. It isn't easy. And it's a lot of content, right? And there's a lot of stuff to put together and make into a reasonable pattern of decision making in the clinic and in society, in business, and all these different things. I think the greatest thing that you can get from an APTA membership as a student is the motivation to keep grinding away as a student. Because I know that for a fact. I knew that there were several times in school where I didn't feel like I was going to make it, and I entered into school with academic probation and I still made it, but I could have used that support. I could have used that fire saying, hey, look, there's a purpose to all this. There's a reason I'm studying every single bony landmark in the human body. Right? There's a reason why I'm memorizing all these modality settings. There's a reason. And the reason's out there. And the reason can be communicated and can be imprinted upon you by the people that are living that reason.
Absolutely. Seems to be a theme here about inspiration and motivation and communication and just being with other people. And that's kind of what you saw in those Facebook posts. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I think I said this on Periscope when I was locked away in a in an elevator yesterday, evening, and I said it. I know I said it at Next Conference. Is a membership is only useful to you if you use it, right? And for me, I go to a martial arts gym, and my training partners make me better, and by going, I make them better. And if nobody goes, nobody's better ever. And stuff that might, resources, like if you look at a gym, dumbbells, exercise machines, free weights, all that stuff, barbell racks, slides, you name it, those things may look completely useless to you, even though there's a room full of resources for your fitness benefits. But the moment you start lifting them, they become useful. Same with membership to an organization, a professional organization. There's all sorts of resources. You may be like, well, I don't know about that journal, or I don't know about that meetup, or I don't know about this, I don't know about that. But when you start using these things, when you start using them with people, when you start, training with people and sharpening each other and firing each other up, that's when you find the purpose.
That's so true. And going off of that, Mark Kev asks, how valuable is the role of social media, Twitter, in the role of membership and networking?
Huge. So I guess fun story time. Dr. Gene Shirak-Abrad and I, the UpDoc Media guys, we were at CSM in Anaheim, combined section meetings, and we were blowing people's minds away because that was the first time we physically met. And we've been in business for months. So the answer, to answer how important is social media moving forward, and it's not important, it's pivotal. You have to have it.
Absolutely. That was the first time you and Gene had physically met?
That was the first time. Anaheim CSM, February this year is the first time Gene and I met.
Wow. Yeah, that is. It is. So yeah, you never know when you're going to meet your potential business partner, for sure. Jessica Marengo asks, there's so many opportunities for involvement that come along with APTA membership. How do I pick and choose?
I would pick and choose what you're interested in, what you're passionate about, and what you're good at. And if there's too many choices, you want to do all of it, you can ask a mentor, you can ask your professor, even your friend, like, where do you see me at? And try it. You're not getting married for life, right? You're just trying things out. And I think that's the thing is, until you try things out, you don't know how much you love or like it or are good at it, or that it's a message, from that life experience to move on to the next opportunity. So pick something out that you're passionate about, pick something out that you like or are good at, find the fusion between them, and try it out.
Perfect. Love it. So Ryan Eckert asks, advice for a DPT in their first year. Things, I don't know if you meant DPT student. From the second part says things to do on top of school with APTA. So take that either direction you want, Ben. Either as a fresh PT or a PT student, DPT or PTA.
Well, I guess on all bounds, get charged up at your local level. My understanding is that local support, we need to, right? Because it starts at our communities. One of the things that I challenge a lot of, well, I challenge people all the time is we see acupuncturists, chiropractors, we see probably a field of tens unit salespeople at regular fairs, at health fairs, at your local mall. But we don't see much physical therapy representation across the board. But a lot of that gets organized at your local chapters and your local resource levels. So, that's where you can get started. And from there, see what happens. You might find yourself heading that up yourself and connecting with other people for more ideas. And that's really where it's all about is, and shout out to Rich Severin because he jokes that I have a blog post for everything, like written before you even asked it. And he goes, everybody asks me, how do you do that, Ben? How do you have all this content ready? Well, I ask people, what do you need to know? What would you like to know? What would you like to talk about? And that's the other value proposition in this membership, in this community, is you can spin off ideas about it, about anything, and you can avoid some of the mistakes that come around the corner that you may not know about. And all of a sudden, you realize that your strengths work in the same direction, that we have so much more in common, regardless of what specialty or interest, regardless of what settings that we're working in. We have so much more in common, and our overarching goal as physical therapists to transform society, to have people choose healthy lifestyles, and for us to be that empowering vehicle to deliver that to people's lives.
Love it. Everybody, as you're watching, don't forget to use the hashtag ExchangeSA in your questions, and we'll be wrapping up here in the next 15 minutes.
Oh, no!
I know, I go fast. So send in your questions if you have them still. I'm sure there are still plenty, but we are firing through these. You're doing awesome, Ben. So Rachel German asks, what can the APTA do to better prevent post-grad membership drop-off?
That's a great question, because I think you'll see this in practice, right? Patients not fulfilling their course of care is a big threat to their outcome. And I think we can learn a lot about our membership and our organization just from the way we practice. I think would be wonderful, and I think the APTA already has certain things involved, is they have certain incentive levels for membership renewal. But also, I think the biggest challenge is in your first year out, you're so busy trying to figure things out. You're trying to get that 1 year belt, and you're completely confident about certain things. You're completely terrified by other things. You have bills to pay. You're on the lowest earning bracket, supposedly. I have more to say about that, but not in this chat. And you don't know where to go from there. I think the biggest threat to any first year graduate dropping out of membership is not experiencing membership in that first year. It is a first year grad just grinding down, trying to make money, trying to pay bills, and that's real life, and that's okay. But there's still opportunities at the local level to get plugged in, even just once, even one single networking night, one pub night, one coffee meetup, one public service health fair thing, any one thing. That making that more accessible, available, and mentally just salient to the first year grad, that will do wonders.
Oh yeah, it's all about that experience. And we have Physical Therapy Day of Service coming up in October, and that's another great way to bring in those new physical therapy students and the students who want to get into physical therapy, getting them really early, the fresh PTs, and then the experienced PTs. Just bringing everyone together for something in your community for PT Day of Service is another great way to let them experience the value of the membership and of our profession. So Catherine Lutz and Landon Pillsbury asks a similar question. What do you find to be the toughest barrier to get already established PTs who may think they don't need the APTA membership to change their minds?
I think the biggest barrier is momentum. When you learn to do something for so long, it's become part of your life. It's not an option anymore. And I think that the best way to grab somebody who hasn't experienced something for a very, very long time is to bring that to them. Now, I don't know what it looks like, and I want you to get fired for, having a whole bunch of APTA members crash a clinic or something like that. But what I would encourage you to do is, if your colleagues are somebody who's been a PT for a number of years and they just don't see, it's not on their radar, the value of membership. What I would encourage you to do is give them a taste of it, give them a piece of it, give them a highlight from this chat, give them a highlight of the Periscope that we did to promote this chat, or any one of the media pieces that are out there that gives us a little snippet of where that value is. And don't be discouraged. I think that's the big thing. Don't be discouraged just because it doesn't work the first time. And again, look to your own practice in terms of how we can cultivate our culture, because does everything work the first time when we do it? Not at all. It almost rarely ever does. And when it does, you kind of think to yourself going, what did I do? And so just seed it. Seed that idea, right? They say it takes usually an average of 8 suggestive moments for somebody to convert to something that they've been to. So just plant that seed and let time, soil, and water take over.
Wonderful. We've got several questions pouring in, so I'm going to get as many in here as possible. So Brandon Ballor asks, I've heard PT has a weak legislative body compared to other practices. Do you feel membership is the best way to change this?
Honestly, at this point, membership is the only thing we have to change this, right? Like the PT pack is the only thing we really have in terms of that muscle board. And until we have more members, we don't have enough voices. And of course, we don't have enough dollars. So if you want a strong legislative arm in your profession at all, this is the only channel we have to focus our vision, our hopes, our dreams, our frustrations, all those things go there. Because I can guarantee you, you can try to walk up to your local legislator's office and you will get a ticket and a waiting time for several years down the line. But when you have already established relationships with folks at the White House, because we have representatives going out there on a daily basis, that's not a waiting ticket line number and wait your turn. That's an open line of communication that's already there. Our jobs, if we're not there, because I'm not there, is to support that line of communication so that conversation never stops and only becomes a bigger, more important thing for each legislator that we are communicating with.
Wonderful. And yes, shameless plug to the PT PAC, which is the Political Action Committee, who makes all of the legislative action happen. So make sure we get them a plug, because we fund them to help things happen on Capitol Hill. Is that your baby?
That was my baby. My almost 3-year-old.
He's so cute. Okay.
It was a lot of fun.
So Jennifer Chang asks, what got you hooked?
What got me hooked? Well, CSM 2013 was that moment that I got to experience that hook, where all the people I was engaging with on social media were saying, hey, we know you from this part of your body. Let's get to know the rest of you. Let's get to know you in person and conversate and share ideas and just see where things go and see what happens when a room full of people becomes a bigger room full of people, becomes an entire convention full of people, ready to charge things up and make things happen. And after CSM 2013, that's when I got hooked. And I know that we've been talking a lot about an emotional experience, and it almost sounds counterintuitive to our objective measure minds in PT. It doesn't fit our clinical prediction rules. Well, what's the likelihood ratio? What's the sensitivity and specificity? You know, it's not about that per se, because not everything we do in PT needs to be measured like that. And I think there's something to be said about the fact that while we use science to treat people, people still experience things in life. And so ultimately what we're doing is we're simply using tools that we can truly rely on to affect change on a clinical level. And when it comes to getting people hooked and getting people engaged, we know certain things work. We know social media works. We know an emotional experience works. And so we're using these tools because we also know those tools lead to funnels down the line. Like, I would have never met my business partner unless it was through social media. And I would have never met a whole bunch of other people unless I actually met them first at CSM, and then I saw them at the following CSM that was in California, so on and so forth. So these things have seeds down the line. The return of investment isn't a slot machine. And I think sometimes we think about it that way.
Right.
Quarter in, bing, $5 out. And I wish it was like that. If you find a business like that, let me know, because that's a great business model. But in terms of a professional organization, the return on your investment comes tail on tail ends later. And it's an investment, right? It's an investment into yourself. It's an investment into your colleagues, which ultimately is your profession. It's an investment into your legacy. And it's an investment down the line, say 10 years down the line, when you want to be able to blow it up because you want to expand, say 3 clinics at a time, that the legislative rules in play are favorable to that, you know, and so many other things that will not just protect, but promote and grow the profession. Because professions that are protected, they get boxed in. Professions that grow, thrive.
Absolutely. So we've got some questions coming in on Twitter from Rachel German and from Ian McMurdy asking about RC11, which is the motion that was brought forth about student debt on House of Delegates last week. And everyone be on the lookout for a blog post recapping what your student physical therapist and physical therapist assistant delegates on our board of directors. Look out for a blog post on what they've been doing and what we've all been doing on the board of directors on behalf of the student assembly. We're going to update you guys on everything as far as RC11 goes, and be on the lookout. Also, make sure to add your comments on those blog posts. We welcome every comment, just like we welcome every question on the Exchange SA chats. So look out for that, and then add your comments on there. So moving forward with some more questions, Luke Davidson asks, what are your thoughts on the APTA using marketing and advertising efforts on professional branding to the general public? I will say we've got Move Forward PT, which is doing an incredible job on branding to the general public. So keeping that in mind at moveforwardpt.com. Ben, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, I think it's important to recognize certain roles and responsibilities of any professional organization. The duties and focus, the primary competencies are there for a purpose. And for the APTA, my understanding is it raises the floor of our profession, raises the bar, so that everybody is up to a certain point, no matter what. Even the least engaged of us is still awesome. That's kind of the general mission and goal. It's up to other leaders to penetrate that ceiling, to raise it so that the space between the floor and the ceiling is wider. And Move Forward is doing a great job at that. It's up to the rest of us to support that, but also to echo that voice in our practice. That, I think, plays dividends, is when you have not just a professional association selling something, and you have your local businesses, your local representatives, your community members, even, and I say even not to disparage, but you wouldn't expect, say, a staff PT from a hospital to march out there and promote physical therapy as a business choice. But that means more. And when that same message resonates in unison, and there's so many versions of that, right? In terms of PT transforms and move forward PT and choose PT. You have get PT first. You have get PT with web PT. There's so many different voices and hashtags, and if they all line up in the same direction, then we have not just an echo, but we have a unison of voice. It doesn't mean we all say it the same way with the exact same words. It's not a spiel. It's in our own voice, but it is the message that is communicated. And I think if we unify on that message, that matters most.
That's wonderful. We've got another question here. Cruz Romero asks, what's our history of membership and professional morale been like in the past? And is this changing now?
I don't know if I can represent the APTA for that one.
Yeah. Well, just in your experience, as far as your history with your own membership, and your personal relationships with people, have you seen a change in the membership?
I have. Where I've seen the change is in the student and the fresh professional generation. I graduated in 2009, and back then, for the most part, not many people are engaged. We're just too busy being PTs, going to clinic, going to, take care of our patients, coming home and taking care of things. But I see a culture shift, a true culture shift. Year by year, more students are getting involved, and honestly, more it's not just DPT students. I'm seeing more PTA students getting involved, and I love it because they're part of the profession too, and their voice needs to be heard because they contribute a very significant representation of our labor force as the consumer sees it. So I see the shift in energy, intent, and action, and I love it. And I'm hoping that this isn't just a trend. I hope that this will become a growth habit. I hope that this becomes something that gets infused into the fabric of our culture.
That's wonderful. And I definitely think that's happening with all of these. I don't know if everyone's heard of the RE-Team initiatives, but it was a group of physical therapists, and it was developed by the board of directors. And the group got together and tried to figure out how can we approach these millennials? What can we do for the millennials in our APTA membership? And there's a lot of development coming at us millennials for fresh PTs and really developing the APTA membership to approach us in the way that we like to be approached. And so more details on that will come. If you are interested, the minutes are available from the 2016 February meeting, Board of Directors meeting, and you can find all of the information on there as well. But more information on that to come on it soon with APTA. But get excited about it because it's awesome. We're moving in the right direction as far as membership goes and just millennials in general. How many times did you hear the word millennial at Next, Ben?
I don't think there's a sentence spoken without saying millennial. But that's not a bad thing. I think that's probably the X factor when it comes to that engagement culture shift, where, everybody gripes about it. Morale's been bad and membership's been low, but honestly, energy is high with millennials. Millennials are not afraid to go flying out there, and you know what? They know it. If they fail, it's okay because they've done something and they'll learn from it. They'll pick themselves up and keep going. And I think that type of mindset, when we can really weave that into the fabric of who we are as a community of PTs and PTAs, boy, that's a spirit that I'm very happy to support.
Absolutely. So that's all the questions that we have time for, and I know we didn't get to every single one of them, but we have one, actually, sorry, we have one question left from Tim Rethorn. The real question: when will Star Wars be mentioned?
Well, it's probably gross if I actually show my shoes, but I'm wearing my Star Wars shoes right now.
Wonderful.
And yeah.
I love it. Yeah, so I didn't prepare. I didn't watch all my Star Wars movies before this.
That's right. We're supposed to have a huge Star Wars. You know what? I would say that is a beautiful imagery. Sorry, spoiler alerts if you're actually watching this. You haven't seen Star Wars yet, but the new Star Wars did something very interesting. And you heard this at Next a lot, where you heard conflicting themes. You know, are we supposed to hold true to our roots, or are we supposed to go where the future is? Do we, do we honor the past, or do we push toward the future? But you can do both, because they're not always on the same playing field. They're not always after the same goals. You can both win. And, you know, Star Wars is an example of that, where you honored the legacy of it, but you understand that the legacy paved the way for your future, and it's up to you to carry it. It's up to you to pick it up and go.
Wonderful. I've got some announcements here. Thank you, Ben, for being here. This has been absolutely incredible. Brian Tachibana, he's a student physical therapist, and he's the director of membership on the board of directors for the Student Assembly. And he has welcomed you to email him. Is that backwards for y'all?
It's fine for me.
Okay. It's backwards on mine. But it's aptasa.dom for director of membership @gmail.com. So email him with your questions. We're going to get to all of your questions on Twitter as well. And I just got a notification. I said something about the RETEAM initiatives. So this was actually passed by the House of Delegates 2 years ago, not by the Board of Directors. Apologize for my misspoken words there. Then the RETEAM recommendations were then accepted by the board. So sorry about that. Thank you for Brian, actually behind the scenes here, helping me out with my words. So thank you. So email Brian if you have questions or suggestions or ways to improve your membership and to find your value. His email is always open. Please don't hesitate to ask any of your questions. I want to make sure everyone knows what the Student Assembly is. So the Student Assembly is every DPT student and PTA student who is a member of APTA. So all of us students, members of the APTA, make up the Student Assembly. And then there's 10 people who serve on the board of directors for the Student Assembly. And everyone who is waving their blue flag at next got to fully understand the definition of the Student Assembly, but we are all a body of one, and we're excited and passionate, all students. So it's a really fun time to be in the Student Assembly right now. So mark your calendars for next month, Tuesday, July 12th at 9 p.m. Eastern. We're talking with John Childs on mentorship. It's going to be an incredible conversation. You don't want to miss it. Also, the Student Assembly newsletter, The Pulse, is out today, and there's incredible articles on there, including a summer reading list, which you don't want to miss. There's always questions about that on the exchange chats. And lastly, applications for the Student Assembly Board of Directors are live and due July 1st. So make sure you turn those in as well. With that said, I just want to say thank you, Ben, for being here and having just an awesome time. It's been a pleasure talking with you about APTA membership.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to seed forth some truly energetic positivity. And I think that, I think if you're watching this right now, whether it's, live or rebroadcast, the best thing you can do, share it.
Yes. Absolutely. Please share it with your friends and your colleagues and your CIs and your mentors. Share it with everyone. And we just want to continue growing this fire and spreading the excitement. So thank you, Ben, for being here. Thank you all for watching, whether that's live or later on as you're listening to it later in the podcast version or on our website at apta.org/exchange-SA. And thank you all for being here. We've had a great time. I'm Alexis Morgan, the Director of Communications. We're talking with Ben Fung of Updoc Media, DPT, MBA, and we've had an awesome time. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. See you later.